whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hooker force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody, gather up close everybody. Kani move that body, kani move that body.
E te iwi, nau mai hoki mai.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa.
Ai, kia ora, tēnā koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another instalment of
Taringa.
Taringa, te punua pāho a te wānanga o Aotearoa. Proudly brought to you by te wānanga o Aotearoa. And here in our awesome little studio, te ipurau, ne Taria.
Ai.
And ko te kaupapa I tēnei wiki, hea tā tātou kaupapa?
Ko tā tātou kaupapa I tēnei wiki ko iwi o te wiki.
Iwi o te wiki e hoa ma. Now, last iwi o te wiki, we were very, very lucky to have our good friend and learned gentleman, Mr.
Ngairo Eruera.
Ngairo Eruera. And I te kōrero o tātou moa, who we were talking about?
We were talking about Ngāti Ranginui.
How dare I forget? Yes. Ngāti Ranginui, Tauranga moana. And ka tuau ki rungo o Mauao, ka whiua taku titiro ki te taihau āuru, ki te upoko o te ika, ka ki te au I ngā karetai, e whati atu ana ki kāpiti, e pari mai ana ki porirua, ko ai te iwi, ko Ngāti Toa. Ngāti Toa rangatira. So Ngāti Toa rangatira, they're the lucky iwi to be pulled out of actually, I think we're lucky Tariao.
Ai.
That we'll be talking about Ngāti Toa, and we're even luckier, I te mea, I have another learned gentleman to talk to us today about his iwi, and his name is Te Kahu o te rangi, Ropata, but I've named him, my name for him is Kahu o Toa. Because this guy, taku rangatira nei, he epitomizes, I think, what it is to be Ngāti Toa. Hoi anō e hoa, kei taku hoa mauroa e te rangatira. E kahu, e mihi atu ana, tēnā koe.
E parao ne tēnā rau atu koe e hoa, mihi nui kia koe.
Tēnā koe hoa, nau mai. And I know he's Ngāti Toa, and he's also got a Ngāti Pro side, but we're not going to talk about that side. Ngāti Toa. Te iwi o te wiki o Toa rangatira. Nō reira, e hoa, e kahu, no mātou te māringa nui, no māua te māringa nui o tira nā kai whakarongo. Nau mai, ki tēnei te punua pāho a te wānanga o Aotearoa. And I know you might be getting ready for class, ne, because there's a pīnakitanga tonight, or?
Yes, pīnaki tonight starts at 6, and I just got back from Wharekauti, got in today, down to see my boys, so...
See the boys, eat some kinners.
Oh, you know.
Look at that, e te iwi. Kahu's just flown in from Wharekauti, you know. Especially for the Punua Pao. And who said men aren't multitaskers? Now he's getting ready for his te pīnakitanga class tonight.
I'm actually just doing some marking as we're talking on my right hand.
Nō reira e hoa, we're going to have a kōrero about tō iwi e hoa, Ngāti Toa rangatira. And really we'll just let the wairua take the flow of the kōrero.
Are there sort of any specifics sort of that you're interested in, or you know, me, te nui hoki o ngā kōrero mo tēnei iwi, moro iti noi hone. Ka whia rāne ngā puka kua tuhia.
Kia ora.
Mōna, but you know, it's a huge kōrero, and it's something we don't take lightly. You know, there's obligations, there's things we have to do to make sure all that kōrero is happening, and trying to circulate it amongst our own whānau and iwi, because, you know, like, I don't know what the situation with you guys is, but you can live in the pā. It doesn't necessarily mean that you know too much about what's going on. So we've had a real push over the last, I think it started almost 27 years ago with our treaty claims. And to be honest, and I think we've sort of had a bit of an uptake over the last 10 or so years, and I've been fortunate enough to start getting involved with some of that revitalisation with the language. well, not unfortunately, but a lot of my mahi keeps me here. We're looking at new ways of how we can do our treaty claims, what we're going to do with all that stuff, and being sort of in the young leadership of the time, we're all sort of getting quite enthusiastic and quite focused on what's happening there. Considering we've had a long time, and I might say, since 1840, Ngāti Toa to have a chance to actually give our kōrero.
Kia ora.
I think the focus of our treaty claim wasn't necessarily the pūtea and the rawa that we get, but more about us finally having a chance to give our kōrero. And so I've been lucky to be at this age of my life where a lot of that stuff has come over my table. I mean, we had 2.5 years of our iwi exhibition, and I've got to say, it's to have all those taonga in one place. Probably hadn't been like that for a couple of 100 years.
Tēnā koe.
And with that came all that information, the waiata, the stories, the interviews, and so I was just so fortunate to be part of all that. And so, we're getting a bit of an uptake on things, Māori. It's pretty hard for us here. We're very closed in terms of papakainga and whenua. As you know, the city moved to us. We didn't move to no city, it came to us. So
that might be a good place to start. It was maybe give our listeners an idea of the boundaries of Ngāti Toa. And I know deep down you'll be saying to yourself, Praone, the boundaries of Ngāti Toa are limitless.
Well, one might think that if you sort of think about the kōrero and the entirety of Ropata's legacy of sort of moving a little tribe under sort of bit of pressure with their own relations through some pretty hostile territory, and having to negotiate, and certain incidents happen that culminated essentially on us coming and moving towards the Kapiti coast. And fortunately enough, we had some pretty, I'd say, young leadership. A lot of our old people that couldn't make it. As you know, there's a big kōrero about that to do with Te Kākākura and the name Te Kākākura. Those things remind us of the constitution that those people put themselves and focus on for the future of our people. And then by 1901, when Ngāti Toa Rangatira, our tūpuna whare, was opened at Takapua here, I think they had some basic statistics going around that there was only 13 or 14 sort of families of Ngāti Toa, very minimal. But really in 1901 we were making this statement that we're still here. Put up our tūpuna whare, Takapua here and its surrounds wasn't necessarily our first option. As you know, we were living the high life in Plimerton at Taupō until Te Raupraha was taken under no charge. Therefore sort of caused a hara on the whenua. And so our people were really relocated to different various places, one being where I'm sitting right at the moment at Turukahika. We resided here actually after Te Raupraha was arrested, and this is the place where tuaono Aotearoa stands. So we stayed here for a little while, and then when they decided they wanted a hospital, we were forced, I suppose, through the Public Works Act, you might call it, to move down into the mud flats of Takapua here. Continual flooding, and to this day, but it wasn't probably our best. But it is what it is, and we're still here. We opened our second whare in 1982. Only a young fella, and there were lots of big rangatira of the motu around at the time, so we got an opportunity. Of course, the land marches come through Takapua here, and we managed to service that, and we've had some pretty gunny speakers to do with the kingitanga too. So, I think it's indicative sort of in terms of the impact of colonisation. Of course, all this thing now, I think we're calling globalisation, which has sped everything up 100 million fold. Well, how many gigabytes can you get in a terabyte? I don't know. How much can a terabyte hold? Millions.
Yeah, not as much as our Ke Te Kōrero can hold, brother.
Hey, yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's just unbelievable. I just can't believe how fit, how clever, when you think about the story. I'm not talking about my own ancestors in particular. I mean, that old school. And, I think about Te Rangi Haiata and Te Raupraha. It's sort of that good cop, bad cop. was the perfect combination of what they needed to get us here and sort of survive.
Kia ora.
And survive while we did until things changed after 1840.
Bro, I really want to ask about, because I think Ngāti Toa Rangatira has a staunch name, bro.
I know, it's unbelievable.
Can you share with us what's your mohiotanga in regards to that name, how Toa Rangatira?
Okay. There are varying versions, I think, and with a lot of Ngāti Toa history, you'll find that, I think even in Tainui history, a lot of things repeat themselves. The sayings that are repeated at one battle and generation sort of slightly change a few generations later. So with that in mind, there are a couple of versions, and I knew you were going to ask me this, and it's the part that I bloody keep getting mixed up, but I'll make my best attempt. So as far as I know, I think it was Korokino or Tupāhau. I think it may have been Korokino. And Tupāhau, I think, up because Ngāti Toa were residing, when you think of Ngāti Toa, because Toa wasn't born, but Tupāhau, I think, were residing up towards Tāmaki Makaurau at that stage.
And these were some of the earlier ancestors of Tainui waka.
Tainui waka, yeah. And so continue an incessant fighting over the resources of kawhia. And that didn't sort of really get settled until around Tupāhau, that off and on thing. So as far as I know, when Tupāhau may have received a curse of sorts in some sort of battle, there's versions they were besieging a pā, and somebody yelled out something a bit disparaging, which is quite often the case when we think about warfare, traditional warfare. And so I think the rebuttal was, "Ako nei, ka rongo koe te riri, o te tamaiti toa, o te tamaiti rangatira."
Kia ora.
To sort of mark that incident, if I do have it correct, not long after, I think Korokino may have been born, and Korokino growing up with that koro when he had his son, named his son Toa Rangatira in
memory.
Remember his father's great achievement at a battle there. So there, but I have heard some sort of slightly varying versions, but that's the one that's pretty much common around here, that hei ako nei ka rongo koe I te riri o te tamaiti toa, o te tamaiti rangatira. And so Toa Rangatira grew up, not necessarily because of his prowess with warfare, but because of his ability to plant gardens.
Kia ora.
Yeah, that's really where. And if you think about if an army marches on its food, one of your best things you've got to be good at is supply kai. And also that's a trait I think we have amongst those kawhia tribes, because you think about the fighting over the resources, especially when Waikato Maniopoto sort of head up towards the Waipa Delta and start spreading through after a couple of 100 years sharing kawhia, And then that tit for tat, I think, over a couple of korowai and a patu maybe, with the start and sort of pretty much the ending for us. So, which built itself up to the time of Te Rauparaha, yeah. And of course, he lived in a post-hinga kaka situation. So if you could sort of imagine that, the kawhia tribes, I don't know if too many of his kaumātua were necessarily that unhappy that he was causing a bit of raru with his relations up Waikato and Tainui and Maniapoto. But in the end of the day, the decision was made for us to settle down here. And so we gave up our lands, and kawhia, as you know, would have been really hard. In fact, if you think within a Polynesian Māori context, is there anything harder? I try to explain to my kids like this. It's like they came in your room and took your PlayStation. You took everything that you own valuable to you, your TV, your phone. You had to leave it all behind. Yeah. All my reaction for my children, whatever, Dad, whatever. Here he goes again. Here he goes again.
I think that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people who will be listening to this, and a lot of them are from this generation, or from what's the next, not the X generation, what's your generation called?
Millennials or Z?
Oh, ne.
Generation Z.
Z generation. And just for the benefit of our listeners, and just to acknowledge what Kahu said, that Ngāti Toa, like any iwi history, the iwi histories are huge. And what we're getting in this podcast is just a snippet of some of that kōrero, ne tari au.
Right.
Yeah, and just for the benefit, your benefit, e ngā kaiwhakarongo, our listeners, at one time, Ngāti Toa were based in kawhia, but after much fighting, and I like how Kahu said tit for tat, and a patu here and a korowai here. They made their way through the leadership of Te Rauparaha. E tika tēnā kōrero, Kahu?
Te Rauparaha, I think, was acclaimed for basically coming up with the idea and really pushing that we leave to maybe settle down this way, because he had just finished the army of whenua.
Right.
Tuataki with Ngāpui, you see, so he come down on a scouting, and he thought that they'd be probably better off putting our charge. Not all of Ngāti Toa agreed, and would have had to bring in all the whakaitanga from all those chiefs.
Yeah.
And Rangi Haita and him, of course, I heard that Rangi Haita actually didn't want to. He was interested in staying there, and I think the kōrero was me hai matariki tātou, meaning that we all split into little groups and we start harassing the big Waikato Maniopoto groups. And he was going hard out, standing on the marae saying it. But in the end, I think the people decided to acquiesce with Te Rauparaha, and I suppose he was the master politician, master in terms of oratory, and he elicited the thoughts, the aspirations of his people. I mean, that's what quite often I think got him into trouble. I don't think there was a debt he never covered. If somebody made a kanga, if somebody made an insult, if there was a death or thing, he would always get retribution. And I think there weren't any really, and I think that might have been one of his characteristics that sort of set him apart. And I know there was a few. But to have, a lot of chiefs, I think you had to be careful who you put your alliances in with. Things changed. And so with Te Rauparaha, and I suppose to some extent Ngāti Toa, we were a bit hot to touch at times. Because I could see why. And if you look at the history, after we come down between Roko, Atio and Toa, after we run out of enemies, we ended up fighting ourselves. And if you sort of look through a lot of that stuff, you understand how the alliances moved and shifted. And he was a master at doing all that. Haita, on the other hand, would have been more of a dictator and a tohunga and my way or the highway, and I think their combination of what I call the good cop, bad cop made it so successful.
And they were obviously whanaunga, Rangi Haita. How were they? I mean, they were connected in many ways, but one was an uncle and one was a nephew, or they're cousins, or?
So they're actually first cousins on the Ngāti Toa side.
First cousins, yep.
Yeah, and then on the Ngāti Raukawa side, which is the side is always emphasised, he's actually an uncle. So if you look at the whakapapa of Waitohi marrying Rakaherea, and so he has Te Rangi Haita and Te Rauparaha, Te Rangi Topeora, and then of course Waitohi being Te Rauparaha's, sister, Waitohi's sister. So he's an uncle in that respect, but the Rakaherea side pulls him into being a upper generation. So Waitohi married upper generation, and so they brought Rangi Toa. So he had a lot of standing amongst Ngāti Toa.
Kia ora.
I think that sort of was their success story. But, I've got to say there were lots of awesome chiefs. When I think about our Ngāti Koata side, and I think of that Koata had some awesome warriors. Yeah, and when they come there, they were hugely used for a lot of the initial fighting down here. Ngāti Rārua, all those kawhia tribes were, I think they were hardened veterans by the time they got down here. They had just been through almost 50, 60 years of incessant fighting.
They didn't catch the mana bus, bro? They walked.
Yeah, no, and that's what I say, the constitution that those people lived by. The fact that the old people asked to be put to death before they left. That to me, and that sacrifice that they would have all ki te kore I tā pukengi o oratia. Ne ki raru I te tai. Kia kaua ngā iwi, nā tāngata, nā tuaono iwi ke, tā hawa tia nā kaumātua ngā kōiwi.
Kia ora.
Kia hane, takatūkino. So, these things stand out, and I think that te rei a ngātai, that's quite a populous, small tētia, nāku I a rākua I waihoi taku whenua eti. Now, if we look at that, that tells of our negotiation out of kawhia, not so much emphasised. There's quite a picturesque sort of version that we were pushed out of kawhia under some, and I might say quite a bit of duress, but there is our version that, you know, we were pretty much negotiated out of there. And I know my old people always like to tell me, remind me of that, that fact. And I suppose that's what it's about, perpetuating that kōrero that old people give us.
Now, Kahu, just picking up, I'm doing some bullet points now. And I know we could speak at length about Te Rauparaha.
Yes.
Te Rauparaha was the composer of Kamate. And actually, I'm careful to use that description of our tupuna when we say they're composed, because I think our definition of composing now is sort of sitting down with a pen and a paper and, you know, having a go, getting your waiata down, your haka down. But he's credited with the haka Kamate, which is renowned within te ao Māori and te ao o Aotearoa and te ao Whānui. But taku pātai, so they migrated from Kawhia to Kapiti Coast, Porirua, Te Whanganui, Tara, Wellington. When did the Kamate happen? Was that during, before or after? Because that's sort of a pātai I've sort of had.
And I think if you think about how you were just saying composition, they didn't really compose. I mean, they grabbed things from wānanga that they attended, you know, especially their aristocracy. So there was a certain amount of information that was kept amongst that level. So I think when he grabbed and changed things, they were variations of different kōrero, variations. And so I know for a fact that when we think of tērā ia ngātai, aroha mai hoa, you didn't even ask me about that, but that was actually another waiata maybe a couple of generations ago, and he changed a couple of words here and there. There's those sorts of things to consider. So with the kamate, and it has been something that's been discussed for a long time, and once again, there's a bit of varying kōrero, and even with the time, whether it was before we left Kawhia, was it already quite a populous haka then? Did he make it more populous when he was caught in that situation in Tūwhare Toa? Once again, over the Pākehā historians have always, and I think this is the thing with Raha being written about so early, always given their version. You know, they make claims that he was being chased while pursued by enemy, and I've got to say that he was going to Tūwhare Toa to visit his relations.
Right.
So we get that fact right, and then later on they heard he was here. And so when he's in the pit, it's one of four haka that I know. I've heard kaumātua from Te Arawa growing up say that nā te rauparaha he oranga nei. I've heard kaumātua saying that Te Rauparaha's kamate also uhi tai. And if you go to Tai Rāwhiti, they have a version of uhi tai. So there's all these versions. But I think with Te Rauparaha at the incident at Tūwhare Toa, when obviously he was quite angst at being at the bottom of that, in the situation that he was in. And if you go there, it's a wonderful sight. We actually had a chance to go up there, our kaumātua, when the South Africans wanted to go and visit it. They wanted to see where the Māori of why the All Blacks were so strong. Beat the South Africans, and they thought that it was because the haka gave them some sort of inspiration that was uncomparable to any other. And so that was the quarter we got. And so we all went up there with our Tūwhare Toa relations and pōwhiri them on. But whilst there, I got an opportunity to listen to quite a few different versions, because Tūwhare Toa have a version of Heoranga. We have in Tainui a version of Heoranga that we say is Hinga Kaka, and if you're Waikato, that's their version of Heoranga. Some I've heard people say Pei Te Huru, Kelly, I think, or even Pei attributes it to Te Rauparaha.
Yeah, Pei.
So, you know, when you're coming out and you're in a sort of position like only he could come out of a situation that was pretty bad, and that's why they get an overemphasis of a woman sitting over his head.
Yeah.
You know, he needed the woman to sit over his head, while when you put into play that the tohungas were tracking him spiritually, he was very lucky to elicit the tautoko of wharerangi and te rangi koaia. because he went to Te Heu first, his cousin. And he says, "Bro, you're too hot, I think some of those guys chasing you were related to my wife. So, but go down to Te Wharerangi, Te Tangata Puhuruhuru. He's a hairy man, lives down there, Roto Island. So he went down there. And I believe, I can't really say, but in my experience, knowing that in some way or effect, this little guy's put himself around Heoranga, Uhi, Tai, Kiki, Kamate, and there's also another one called Katuki Tuki. Manoa, okay, which is, that's another one from Te Ropata, and you'll quite often hear me do that one quite often. But I believe, I mean, there might be other people who disagree, but when that guy come out of the pit, or whether it was actually as he came out, or whether it was after the hakari, which seems more realistic to me, as he's saying his farewell, he may have performed what I believe is a actual story from his whole tribal Tainui history, which started at Hinga Kaka, that Heoranga, the kōrero associated with us there. Uhi Tai, which is, of course, if we think about it, ngā haramai ngā toa I runga I raro I amu. So it was all about his connection and coming down. And Kiki, I think, is we know, was actually the karakia part as he was in the pit. You see, the karakia as he's starting to come under being succumb to the powers of the other tohunga. And the fact that Rangi Koaia sat over the entranceway doubled his defence against what could possibly be quite a disastrous situation for him. And that's sort of the feeling I get with it all. If I was to give my personal opinion, and I suppose that's really all I can give, is that he would have come out of that pit or at that hakari, and he would have espoused Heoranga and brought it, and through his own words and variations. That's why you have variations in your words. Ours is a ngeri, it's not a haka taparahi, which I know probably is a later convention of Waikato later. I don't know whether that was to make it somewhat separate to our version. So we're a ngeri pōkeka sort of a tribe, keka. We're a crazy lot, but I love them to bits. I really love everything about where we live, our history, and the old people that I was fortunate enough to have a lot of time for, and they had a lot of time for a few of us. So. But I have been challenged by other tribes. No, that's ours. Man, I'll tell you, you haven't heard that. I reckon you haven't heard that Heoranga Tana Tuisi Tūhoi Tana. Man, weirdy. I had an experience. It just got my whole back up when I thought, that's how you do.
Yeah, I remember they done it at a Matatini one year. Ruatahuna done it.
I saw them do it at a tangi. Geez, I can't even remember, bro. Yeah. Or a hui, some big hui where I managed to attend.
How I see haka, is like haka me ngā mō tete. So our traditional haka and our traditional mō tete, means waiata. It's pretty much like how it is today, how you've got the top of the charts. And when a haka became famous in Te Ao Māori, it spread through the iwi. And iwi picked the haka up or the mōtete up. And as you said, they sort of like would, remix it, chop and change, put their own kupu in, change the manawa taki. And that's why it was it wasn't hard for our tupuna when the rangi Pākehā came, the Pākehā tunes to come to adapt them.
Yeah.
Aye. So Tariao loves watching the kapākai Tariao. She's doing some adaptations.
I think that's changing a bit, Parane, in terms of, because, man, I got some recordings and there's no tune. Yeah. And it's tūturu. And then I look at stage, because while you're there. And if you haven't heard, Ngāti Toa are just starting a kapahaka team.
Bro, put that plug out there. When's the first practice, bro?
Listen, it's a long way. It's a long way to anything to... but, like, once again, Parone, it's just an opportunity for us to practice our stuff, because we don't get a chance to practice our things. And if we can use this as a vehicle to get more of this kōrero out and our history, I think it's a great idea. I'm not necessarily a kapahaka person like yourself and our friends, but it's something that I feel we need to do, be part of, because the young rangatahi want to know what the kōrero are and if we can adapt our kōrero to their histories. They're enjoying kapahaka and learning some stuff as they go along.
Kia ora e hoa. I think we'll wrap it up there.
Kia ora, Praone. Mihi nui tēnei kia koe ho.
E mihi atu
E mihi
ana
ana
e
kia koe.
hoa. Kei te uri o mango Taringa tahi.
Kia ora.
O tira te ihu kāka o Ngāti Toa. E mihi atu ana tēnā koe mō I whai wāhi mai ki tēnei punua pāho. Te wānanga o te roa, ko māua tēnei, ko tari au o tira te wānanga o te roa, e mihi atu ana kia koe, brother.
Kia ora e hoa. Ko tahi ana ke taku kōrero ki a koe. Tēnā rawa atu kōrua I tono mai ki au, nōku ke te maringa nui, ke whai wāhi au te whakawhiti kōrero ki a koe. Te kōrero tai nui waka ne, kare kau he mihi tu atu I te mihi nui.
ora.
No reire, mihi nui tēnei ki a koe.
Tēnā koe,
Tēnā
brother.
koe.
Kia ora rawa atu. Ka pai tari au, that's us.
Tēnā rā tātou.
Hei ko nā maira.
Man, I was just captivated by all that kōrero, eh?
Me tahi.
Tā.
I could have just sat there and let him talk.
Yeah, and I would have sat here and listened that whole time.
E tino pai rawa atu.
Following on from that, our haka this week will be kikiki.
Ai, e te iwi, we thought it was pertinent, instead of having a waiata this week, my bro Kahu, he's not really much of a singer, but he likes the haka. And we thought it was a fitting tribute to the kōrero this week, that we do the haka, kamate, or in this case, kikiki kakaka, which is the one part of the haka you heard. So there's like 5 parts.
Oh, yeah.
And Kahu referred to it as angiri, or pōkeka, and rightfully so. So traditionally, kamate was done with no set actions. So how you know kamate te rei isn't actually how kamate was performed traditionally. Yeah. So an angiri is a type of haka where you sort of just let the wairua do its thing, ihi and wana do its thing. And yeah, so whakarongo mai ki tēnei ngiri nei, kikiki kakaka into kamate.
Kikiki kakaka kauana, kai wani a takutara, kai tarawa hia, kai arua I te kero. He pongara hui, he wira, ki te rangi kararapa, kete, kauana, koperu, kai riri mau, e koro e. Hiha, kaue hia wakamatakana. Koe te tangata kia rere ure, tirohanga ngaru a rera. Ngaru a kurigaka nui rara. Ui, kamate, kora. Ui, kamate, kora. Tēnei te tangata puhuru, uru nāna, itiki mai whakawhiti tērā. Upane viti tērā.
Ka mau te wehi.
Oh, man. Amazing.
Did that get your...
That just...
I hinawa te kiri?
Aye.
Did you get goosebumps?
Yes, got goosebumps everywhere.
Everywhere. I think I get goosebumps listening to that haka or thinking about that ngiri because of the history behind it too. Neha, the whakapapa. Nō reire te iwi, that was our haka of te wiki, not a waiata, so that was a bit of a treat for you guys. Facebook page, Tariao.
Yes, we would love to announce that we've finally got our Facebook page up.
Woohoo!
After 6 weeks.
Ka pai tēnā.
Ready to go.
You can engage on our Facebook page, Pukamata, Whārangi Pukamata, and the name of the page is...
Taringa.
Taringa! How original. So there you go, e te iwi. Whai mai I tērā whārangi, come on there, post away, get in the discussions and things like that. And ko tātou tērā neha, Tariao.
I think that's us for the week.
Au e mihi atu ana kia koutou. Thank you again for tuning in to Taringa.
Taringa.
Brought to you by Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. in this Te Hōtaka Tuaono, the 6th episode.
Yes.
And we look forward to speaking to you all again
Next week.
Tērā Wiki. And hea te kaupapa Tērā Wiki?
It is Once Upon a Timer.
Once Upon a Timer.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've got some thank you again to everybody for your feedback and for following our podcast.
Yeah.
And I got a few messages from people who really enjoyed listening to the last Once Upon a Timer.
Yeah.
And I've got a feeling the next Once Upon a Time is going to have something to do with the kaupapa kōrero today. Hoi anō, e mihi atu ana kia koutou katoa. Hei kona mai rā.
Hei kona.
Tahuri mai ki au, whakarongo ki te tangi a te kori mako. Kōrero flowing out the hookah force, kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira, whakarongo pi kari kari mai, hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody, gather up close everybody. Kani kani move that body, kani kani move that body.
Taringa. He mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe. Taringa, whakarongo mai.